Christianity is paganism. I know you don't want to believe it, but it's a fact. Christianity is like a store-bought lemon pie. Why do I say a store-bought lemon pie? Because when you get this so-called lemon pie and you examine the ingredients on the back, you will find that there is nothing even remotely related to a lemon on it. There are a whole bunch of other things, a whole bunch of confusing things that don't make sense, but no lemon. It doesn't even taste like a lemon. Not even the sugary, lemony things you're used to, like lemonade. The only connection between this lemon pie and a lemon is the name. Christianity is exactly the same. There is no Christ in it. There's a whole lot of things that you can read about and a whole lot of things that don't make sense, but nothing having to do with Christ or the Bible. The only connection between Christianity and Christ is the name. Greetings everyone, welcome back to Lemex Effects, where we use video games to explain certain truths regarding history and religion, specifically biblical religion. For example, Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X shows a religion that is strongly based on Catholicism. And if you don't know, all Christianity is Catholicism. I challenge you to try to prove me wrong. All denominations come from Catholicism. Now, in this Catholicism, the people of Spira bow down and pray to different gods from other religions called Aeons. The people pray to these Aeons because they hope that these Aeons will save them from the destructive creature called sin. Now, if you don't already get it, they pray their actual god is called Yevon, which is based on Yahweh or Jehovah or Jehovah. So them saying their god is Jehovah and bowing down to statues is what makes this obviously Catholic. So, since this Spira's religion is based on Christianity and Catholicism, we will examine each of the pagan gods that appear in the game and which race created them, because that's what makes a religion pagan, and what doctrines these pagan gods added to Christianity. Also, we're going to do this in historical order, meaning in the order of slavery, starting with Ixion. Now, in mythology, Ixion is a Greek man who tried to sleep with Zeus's wife Hera. With such a strong connection to Zeus, that explains why his power is lightning. Also, since Ixion is Greek mythology, that means he represents Greek history and the Greek religion. By the way, we also notice that he has an overdrive called Thor's Hammer, which ties him back to the Vikings, which is where Lent comes from, because Lent is a holiday created by the Vikings. But right now, since his name is Ixion, we're going to focus on the Greeks. So let's look at the Greeks and how their paganism infiltrated the church. A long time ago, in about 300-ish BC, Alexander of Macedonia conquered the land and became the first king over Greece. He was hailed as Alexander the Great. Soon he died, and his servants set crowns on their own heads, making themselves kings. One of the descendants of these kings was called Antiochus. And Antiochus created a doctrine that Christians know all too well. 1 Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. And there you go. There it is. Catholicism. Literally, Catholicism means all-embracing, broad, universal, all-inclusive. Basically, the desire to include all race into one religion or group. See, I told you I'd find Catholicism. But that is not all. You see, King Antiochus created another doctrine that Catholics and Christians still hold dear. The doctrine that Antiochus wrote was that the laws of God that are in the Bible are done away with, as stated in verse 49, to the end that they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. But no. King Antiochus was not satisfied with only doing away with the Judaic laws. He also wanted the Jews to practice the customs and holidays that all the other races practiced, like Easter and Christmas, such and such, as stated in verse 44. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah that they should follow the strange laws of the land. And finally, when the Jews went into the temple, they saw just how far these Grecians went in their blasphemy. 1 Maccabees chapter 3, verse 34. And laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images. Now, I have a question for you. I call Caucasians Caucasian just every time. I do not call them by much else. But for the ease of understanding, so you know what they are, what is the skin color that Caucasians like to call themselves? Now, with that, if these people see pictures that don't look like them, and these people decide to paint over the images to make it look like them, what do we call that process? In America, we call that whitewashing. So, here are the doctrines that Grecians introduced. They introduced 4 doctrines. 1, that all races must come together as one people. 2, that the laws of God are done away with. 3, that we should keep pagan holidays like Easter and whatever other holidays the pagans came up with. And 4, that the image of God and the Jews doesn't matter, but should be painted as white anyway. Now tell me, does this sound familiar? Oh, by the way, someone would say that this book of the Maccabees that I'm reading from is not canon, and that we should not follow it or even read it because it is not supported by any other prophet, right? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get you a time when someone actually mentions, a major prophet actually mentions the events that happened in the book of Maccabees. Daniel chapter 8, verse 21. Daniel is a major prophet, right? Okay. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. I have a question for you. Who was the first king of Grecians again?
You know, after doing this recording and going back over my notes, I realized something. The Aeon Ixion represents the mythological man named Ixion and Greeks in general, right? And Ixion, the man, tried to take someone else's wife, a woman that wasn't his. The Grecians tried to take the Jews' land, religion, culture, and identity, things that don't belong to them. That means, as a whole, the Aeon named Ixion represents Caucasians trying to take things that aren't theirs. And since Final Fantasy X is about Christianity, that means that Ixion, as part of their religion, represents the spirit of taking what is not yours, residing in Christianity. Which is really funny because the way Christianity was spread in the first place was when Caucasians were taking things that weren't theirs, which includes, but is not limited to, North America, South America, the Caribbean islands, Australia, the Philippines, Africa, parts of Europe, Israel, and the Bible, and the people that resided in those lands, and the gold in those lands, and the silver in those lands, and basically everything that those lands had that made those people great. Caucasian Christians just steal everything.
Now, with that out of the way, we have examined a religion created by the Grecians that sounds all too Christian, right? Now, I have a question for the Native Americans. Why don't you tell me and see if we can find this? What do Caucasians do if you do not accept their religion? I'm going to find, as you remember everything that Christians did when they came to the American continents, I'm going to read this verse in the Bible and you tell me if this sounds about right. 2 Maccabees chapter 6 verse 9. And whosoever would not conform themselves to the manner of the Gentiles should be put to death. Then might a man have seen the present misery. Sounds about right, right? Man, the Caucasians never changed. But many of the Jews did not accept this king's religion. So they fought for their laws, their customs, their land, and for Judaism. And so they killed many Caucasians and anyone who allied with them. That means even other Jews who were whitewashed and sided with the Grecians were killed. Until finally, they kicked the Caucasians out of their land and out of their temple. And from that day forward, a holiday was established to celebrate this momentous event. 1 Maccabees, chapter 4, verse 59. Moreover, Judas and his brethren, with the whole congregation of Israel, ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season, from year to year, by the space of 8 days, from the 25th day of the month Caslu, with mirth and gladness. So, if that was too many words, let me explain. This celebration is called the dedication, and because it's a party is also called a feast, like a fiesta. So this feast of dedication is an 8-day long celebration of killing Caucasians, taking your land back, and taking all the images that they whitewashed and repainting them as black or whatever it is that you look like. And this dedication was to be held like the Feast of Tabernacles, which means that it had to be held at Jerusalem every year, and all the men of the entire race had to come to celebrate it. Now, you may think that celebrating the death of Caucasians is not right. It's not Christ-like. Christ would not want you to do such a thing. In fact, he would definitely rebuke you if you celebrated such a bloody holiday. Well, first of all, thou hypocrite, how dare you say that Jesus Christ would not want you to celebrate a murderous holiday when you yourself celebrate a holiday based on the death of another race, which is Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is literally created because Caucasians want to thank their God for allowing them to massacre the Native Americans. And I even found an article about that. It is called The American Thanksgiving, Rejoicing in Genocide and White Supremacy. It says, William Bradford, the former governor of Plymouth and one of the chroniclers of the 1621 feast, was also on hand for the Great Massacre of 1637. Those that escaped the fire were slain with the sword. Some hewed in pieces, others run through with their rapiers, so that they were quickly dispatched, and very few escaped. It was conceived that they thus destroyed about 400 at this time. It was a fearful sight to see them thus frying in the fire. Horrible was the stink and scent thereof, but the victory seemed a sweet sacrifice, and they gave the prayers thereof to God, who had wrought so wonderfully for them, thus to enclose their enemies in their hands, and give them so speedy a victory over so proud and insulting an enemy. The rest of the white folks thought so too. This day forth shall be a celebration and thanksgiving for the subduing of the Pequots, read Governor John Winthrop's proclamation. The authentic Thanksgiving Day was born. So, Thanksgiving was born because they wanted to thank their God for allowing them to murder Native Americans. And for that reason, because Caucasians were so murderous, Jesus Christ himself ordained, permitted, and celebrated this holiday, the Feast of the Dedication, with his disciples. And this holiday was celebrated in John chapter 10, verses 22 and 23. And it was at Jerusalem the Feast of the Dedication, and it was winter. And Jesus walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. That means if you are a Christian, you must celebrate the Feast of Dedication and not Thanksgiving, just like Christ did, every year for 8 days straight. Thus saith Jesus Christ, who is our Passover. And for those who don't know, the Passover celebrates the death of Egyptian slave masters in the spring for 7 days. And dedication celebrates the death of Caucasian slave masters in the winter for 8 days. And for reference, the Feast of Dedication starts in this year at the 9th of December at sundown. It is a joyous time for any race that was enslaved by Caucasians.
So, fake Christians will try to say that celebrating the Feast of Dedication is wrong, to give thanks to your God for the destruction of Caucasians. But they give thanks to their God for your destruction. So, Native Americans, if they celebrate your destruction, you should celebrate their destruction for 8 days straight.
So, what is the lesson of this story? The lesson is that Grecians, who are Caucasians, created a religion that was meant to unite all people. The word for that is literally Catholic, which again literally means all-inclusive, all-embracing, and liberal, because liberal meaning that they can do whatever they want and don't have to keep the laws. Anyway, this Catholic religion ordered that the Judaic laws were done away with and outdated. It also accepted and promoted most other holidays, all other holidays, and customs that are not biblical. And it also, because even though I didn't read it, did away with the dietary laws, such as they said they want to eat pork, and they also repainted the images of the Jews and God to make them look Caucasian, whitewashing. This doctrine did not come from Jesus Christ or Paul or from any biblical prophet at all. It came from Greece. Thus, Ixion represents the Grecian roots that prevail in Christianity today. This Grecian Catholicism is a direct reflection of Roman Catholicism. And just like modern day Christians, anyone who does not conform to the Caucasians' Catholicism was killed. But God himself hated Catholicism so much that he stirred up the Jews to defend themselves, their lives, and thus to kill these Grecian Caucasians. And then he made it not a holiday, but a holy week to celebrate the death of these Caucasians and the defending of their own land and culture. Thus was created the Feast of Dedication, a holiday week created for Native Americans, blacks, and whosoever else was enslaved by Caucasians, which again starts on the 9th of December this year, a celebration that Jesus Christ himself honored, and if you're a Christian, you would too. But the Grecians, they're not Christian. They hate such a holiday, and they sought to erase it, to make the book of Maccabees not canon. And so The Greekish Aeon, Ixion, made war against the Jews continually. But for all their wars against Israel, the Grecians could not stand. And eventually, the brothers to the Grecians, who are the Romans, fought and conquered the Greeks. Thus, the dragon was born, Bahamut, the Aeon of the Greco-Roman Empire.